Welcome to this week's episode of the Every Arkansan podcast. I'm Drew Davis, and I've got another treat for you this week. We've got Terry Williams. She's with City of Faith, and their ministry is all about helping prisoners re-enter society and become citizens once again. She's chasing after her God-given dream, and it's so amazing to see how she's helping others chase after theirs. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Miss Terry Williams, we're so excited to have you today on the Every Arkansan podcast. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. It's going to be a lot of fun. I can tell already. You guys are great. I am Terry Williams. I am originally from a very small town in northeast Louisiana in the Delta, as you can probably hear. I've been in Arkansas since 1996. And it's so funny because I've always wanted to, well, when I was a kid, you think where you live is just the ultimate. But, when I drove 4 hours north of where I lived and I realized that there was more to the world than just the flatlands of Louisiana. And then I started thinking, Arkansas is one of America's best kept secrets. Anything north of Little Rock and you're on vacation. And that was fun for me to actually get to see some beauty and not just dirt. So I've been here since 1996. I am the executive director of City of Faith reentry program. And what we do is we help returning citizens coming out of federal prison, and we're the only federal transition house in the state. Now in Louisiana, you can't fall down that you don't fall down in one of these, but we're the only one in Arkansas, and we're located in central Arkansas. And we house about 100 people on any given day coming out of prison, and we help them transition back into back home into their communities and with their families, help them with jobs, job placement, finding jobs in their communities. And we are very, very proud of what we do. I have a very, very creative population. I always tell them that if they would take their creativity and use it for good, we could change the world from 1401 South Garfield, because they're so smart. They are so smart, and they've just taken a wrong turn, made a mistake, as we all have. Some mistakes are huge, some not so big, but a mistake is a mistake, and there are always consequences to every decision we make. And these guys are living out their consequences, and we're just there to tell them that you can make it. You're great. You're great. You're not who society says you are.
So here you are, Miss beautiful, well-dressed lady working with a bunch of convicts. How did that happen from...
Oh, and people ask me this all the time. Aren't you scared? I've never been afraid. I'm more afraid to walk downtown by myself at night than I am to... But that's nice of you to say. But that is a frequent question, is, how it's just a matter of demeanor, I think. It's just being respectful. You have to show respect to get respect, and I don't walk around commanding respect or demanding respect. And and if you have to tell people that you're the boss, you probably aren't. So I think I just offer them a way out, and they realize that. And so most of them do. To be truthful and to be completely honest with you, we have our success rate is at around 83%. And that means that 83% of my population actually make it to their release date. These guys are still in custody. They're still in prison. And they have about 6 months left on their sentence. And so the Bureau sends them to us. The Bureau of Prisons, we're contracting with them to help them transition back home. And like I said, if you have to tell them you're the boss, then you're probably not. And I don't walk around throwing my weight around and demanding that they, realize who I am. I'm nothing. I am you. I am you. And so we have a lot of fun. the 83% that make it to their release date, but then you have those who don't, and those are the people whose names I remember, the ones that just give you, 10 kinds of hell while they're there. I'm like, yeah, I remember you. I will never forget you. And but it's so gratifying at the end of the day to have somebody who absolutely takes advantage of what you have to offer and just, goes forth and conquers and just does a great deal with it. And that's not to say that, a lot of them have been locked up for so long that they enjoy the parameters, they enjoy the being kind of in this box that they shouldn't get out of. And then when they get to where we are and they've got a little bit of freedom, a lot of them, some of them just can't handle that. And those are the ones who need us the most.
So these men and women have they've been incarcerated for who knows what, and so they're coming to you guys in the last portion, on the tail end of this sentence. What kind of relationship can you form in just that short period of time? How does that kind of work?
Well, we've all got parameters, right? There's a line you don't cross, and there's a code of conduct, of course, and so I don't, and I shouldn't have that kind of relationship where I am that guy in your life who has all the answers, and of course I'm not going to do that. We have case managers and who you're just trying to get them on the road of where they need to go. Now, I don't form personal relationships with any of them. Now, I do love them all, and they know I love them all, and I want to take care of you as within the confines of what the Bureau will allow. And so that's protection, and that's protection for them, and that's protection for us. And so, no, you're not able to build and establish, as you think, in a ministry, a relationship. But you do have, you are offering them tools to help them in their own personal relationships, if that makes any sense.
It does. Because, I just look at so many of the kids that I've worked with in the past in our ministry. Well, they've only got 6, 7, 10 years of bad habits, so to speak, and so much of the success we see is that slow relational type process where, okay, we finally gotten to the point where you will listen, you will trust me that I have something
what you're
to say.
doing is kind of probably going to knock out my business entirely at some point.
I would love to put you out of business.
I know. I think that's wonderful. The people who do the best or have the most success have family ties that are the strongest. A lot of people who are just out there, like I have felt before, just untethered, and like you didn't have any sort of substance to hold you, and just flying blind. Those are the people who need the most attention and need more tools. But those that have, strong family ties, their mothers are waiting for them to come home, or their wives are waiting for them to come home, or they've got kids that it's clicked that they need to be taken care of. Those are the ones who do the best.
And one of the things you'd kind of talked about was just this concept that so many of those that have been incarcerated are give me. They've been expected. My meals are coming to me. Everything's taken care of. But something you've done is kind of flipped that around. Explain that a little bit.
Well, we wanted to become an organization of givers, not just takers, and that it just meant something to me to actually give back to the community and have an opportunity to do that. And so when it just hit home that we needed to do that, and so we started becoming givers in the community. I think what the first thing that we actually did was, I think, if you remember when the tornadoes came through Valonia,
Yes,
and we were able to go and help with the cleanup and help. We had extra mattresses, we had extra bedding, we had water, and we were able to just fill up the van and just go to Valonia and take the guys, and that actually, when they saw that they were actually being able to be used in this capacity, it changed us. It changed us as an organization, and that meant the world to me. And you can't outgive God, and to tell these guys, give of yourself and you will get in return. You can't, it's just a law. It's like gravity. You can't deny it. It will always come back to you, and it'll come back in spades. And so when that happened, when we were able to actually get out there in the community, and it changes the people's perception of inmates.
Right.
They come out and everybody's got, like, oh man, they're scared of them. They're afraid that they've got to batten down the hatches, and when we first started in 1996, there was so much resistance to our program in the community, till it was just awful. It was just awful. It was a huge not in my backyard situation, and but we've been able to do what we said we would do. We promised we will be quiet, we will be beautiful, this will be an asset in your community. We promise this. And so 22 years later, people don't even know where we are or that we are there.
And that's a big one. I mean, I remember talking to Alan Winkler about the whole NIMBY, not in my backyard, that y'all have kind of fought over the years because of the stereotypes.
Oh, absolutely.
Of inmates or ex-cons or whatever you want to call them. And I love how when you started talking, you called them citizens.
Oh, they're returning citizens. That's what we like to refer to them as. And I'm a staunch advocate for these guys. The thing about it is, when you have children, if anybody says anything about your kid, you just kind of turn into somebody you didn't know you were. And you want to fight. You're like, no, yeah. And I'm the same way about just about anybody there. I mean, I have people there who just drive me nuts, honestly. But I can say that about that person. But if somebody else comes up and goes, so-and-so, and I'm like, and so, but it's like when I started in this business, it was like giving birth again. And I gave birth to something that was so beautiful. I think my girls, I have 3 daughters, and I think every single one of them are just absolute beauty queens. And now probably not everybody thinks that, but I do. And I think that about City of Faith. I'm like, look at this beautiful child. And this was actually a child my sister gave birth to, but I took it on as a niece and raised it, to be my own. And so that's where I am in the whole process is, I love what we do. And I love these returning citizens. And I think that, and I think, when you have a child, when you give birth to something, this is a God thing. And when I stepped into being able to be a part of this particular program, it was an absolute God thing. It was a calling. And I didn't know at the time, I was just going to work. And then it became not just making a living, it became a life. And it just, I was so, like you said, unqualified. And I just felt like I had been thrown into a sink or swim situation. And I just did not want to mess this up. Because, and I've always thought this about my girls too. I'm going to have to stand before God one day and give an account of what he gave me. And this is just, one more thing he's going to be, and I don't want it to be wood, stubble, and hay. I want it to be precious stones and something that will not burn in the fire, that's something that will actually live on for him.
We always, that mentality of laughing and enjoying just the craziness that some kid did, but then at the same time saying, no one else better laugh.
I know.
I mean, it's something I think when you start to serve others, it becomes part of your DNA. What are some of the crazy stories? I mean, just of seeing people come in, because I mean, we look at someone that's been to prison as a lower class or the worst case, and these horror stories or whatever. But I think there's beauty in so much of what you do,
and so much fun because they will come and say some of the craziest things to me I've ever heard. I'm like, whoa, back off, don't say that. But they're so funny in their slang and their demeanor, and but they just seem to think it's so funny to be able to say something to me that's shocking. They get a huge kick out of that. But now, these many years later, I'm not as shocked as I used to be. And but I had a guy that I've had several. We partner with Goodwill Industries, and they hire a lot of our guys. And I had a guy who actually, he was 44 years old and had never had a job, never ever had a job. And he came to me and he was just all teeth, grinning from ear to ear because he had been hired by Goodwill, and then they had given him an opportunity to be a forklift driver, and he was so happy and so proud of himself. And how can you not love somebody who is just, the door's life, and this is just something that he's never had to. And he told me, I'm through with prison. I am through with prison. I had one young man come to me, and he had a gang tattoo on his face. And he came and he said, can you please help me get this taken off my face? He said, I don't want to be associated with this anymore. And, that's heartbreaking. And you will move heaven and earth to find that one person who can put whatever it is on there to get rid of that. And I had a guy who, he must have spent 15 years reading his Bible because there was nothing you could ask him that would trip him up. He knew chapter and verse of everything, the entire Holy Bible. He knew it from cover to cover. And I asked him, I said, how in the world did this happen to you? And he said, when they shut those doors, and I get kind of choked up telling these stories. He goes, and I was looking down at 15 years. He said, I was either going to stay high for 15 years or I was going to renew my mind. And that's actually what he did. And he's doing great now, doing wonderful. He's a personal trainer here in town and just killing it. And but then I have, like this story, a young man came and sat in my office and cried. And I had a couple of men from the community come and talk to him and pray with him. He prayed the prayer of salvation. And as soon as he got out, he went straight back to his old lifestyle and went straight back to prison. And he's now back at our facility doing it again, but this time with a completely different attitude. So, God is at work. God is at work. He doesn't just leave them hanging. And that's so sweet to see, that the Savior loves each and every single one of them personally and is working in their lives. You can just see him putting all the puzzles together, and when they see it and when the light comes on, that's the beauty. Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, I learned several years back, if I want it more than they want it, it's not going to happen.
Exactly. It's like you say, I can read the Bible to you, but I can't read it for you.
Right.
Yeah, it's the same concept.
But it's so amazing to me. I mean, you take a person who's not worked their whole life, 44 years old. I mean, which I'm a couple of years older than that, but I mean, I'm looking at how many jobs I've had in that time, and for an opportunity for a forklift driver to change someone's life. And I think that's one of the things that a lot of people don't realize is that they might not be called to do what you're doing in full-time ministry doing this, but just creating the opportunity where they are can change someone's life.
Oh my goodness. And God's an on-time God. He doesn't, you may think you've wasted all those years, but he knew that 44-year-old was going to come out one day and need a job. He knew that all along, and he knew he probably had to work all these things out of his life, and it was a process. As you know, my mother used to, every time I would complain about something, she would always say, it's just all part of your sanctification process. And she's from North Louisiana too, but I hear her say that to me all the time in my head. You know, she's in Jesus's presence physically right now, but I hear her tell me that all the time. It's just part of your sanctification process, and I tell those guys that too. They get so frustrated because, you know, we don't have razor wire, and we don't have, you know, all we have are rules, and to have to not be told, you have to follow the rules for yourself. We're not going to tell you when to wake up. We're not going to tell you, you know, all these different day by day things. You've got to do this yourself. And that gets so frustrating to them, you know, things we take for granted.
Right.
And but I'm like, what did you got against rules? What have you got against the 10 Commandments? You know, take a day off, don't kill somebody. Rules are not, they're there for your protection and for your good.
And, I mean, it's always so amazing because you talk about that, because I've been over to your facility and you wouldn't, I mean, you'd think it's a college dorm.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, literally just from looking at it from the outside, the property, everything. But in there are guys who've been institutionalized, who have been marginalized, imprisoned, behind multiple layers of all this.
For a long, long time. Yeah.
And these are guys and gals that literally are willing to do this for that next chance. I mean, that's exciting to me.
It is exciting.
I look at so many people who just give up. And, I'm here. I mean, we talk about with kids that they can't see past that 25th, 26th birthday because they don't really have a whole lot of relationships in their life that can see that far. So they just kind of give up. And I mean, being incarcerated, I can see them giving up. But I mean, it's just with what you're doing. And this is that second chance, that fresh start that I love about God. It's like, forget yesterday, look at tomorrow.
Oh, I know. He's a God of second chances. Yeah. And that's, you know, our mission statement is, you know, a second chance. We're here to help you get your second, third, fourth, fifth, you know. He doesn't give up on us, and we shouldn't give up on them. And I just love, I had another young man come through. He had been locked up since he was about 23 or 24 years old and had been locked up for 25 years. And I'm telling you, his story read like a crime novel before he was 23 years old, all the craziness which I told him, you should write a book. Seriously, you should write a book about your life, because he spent all of the time his time in prison educating himself. And he came out and he had this particular skill, and I don't have the verbiage for it, but it was something that is very unique to the manufacturing industry, and he knew it. Nobody else knows it. He's that guy. And he got such a excellent job, you know, making $50,000 to $55,000 a year. This dude had been locked up for 25 years. He comes out and he just gets this bang up good job. And I had called several people because I had read his story, and I thought, oh man. And a lot of times they surprise me, because the ones who look the worst on paper do the best. And I had called several people, and I go, this guy here, this is his name. Please put him on your prayer list, because I'm worried. He's been locked up for so long, and he's still a young man. And he's probably been out a year. He's probably released about a year ago. And I still have people come up to me and go, how's he doing? We still got him on our prayer list. And I know, you know, he knew it too. He knew that his situation was unique. He knew that not everybody who comes out of prison gets a job making that kind of money. And but that is an exception, but it's one that I love to share, because, you know, God's not a respecter of people. I mean, but there's not 2 cents difference in that job and that forklift job. They mean the same to these people, and it means the same to me. It means the same to Jesus, that, you know, you are making it. You are making it, and and it's just, when we're not done. We've still got a long road ahead of us. So.
And that's exciting to me, because opportunity changes lives.
Oh, absolutely.
Opportunities that we take for granted a lot of times. What are some opportunities to get involved with City of Faith? to jump in there? I mean,
Well, we don't. The Bureau does not allow a strict volunteer program. You have to pass the whole background check, and go through. You have to be vetted by the Bureau, and but what we do is, if somebody needs us, that's who we want to go to. That's if somebody, we want to be the volunteers, and so if anybody needs anything that we can offer, that's they can get involved that way. And so I hate that, because people want to come in and give they want to give of their time, and that's important to, I know that. I know, and that means a lot to us that people really would like to get involved with these, but we're kind of strapped as far as what the Bureau will allow us to do and have.
But business owners, hiring executives, I mean,
people who
can reach out to you.
Oh, absolutely. And, they do. We have a lot of construction companies and people who use us as their employee pool. And so that's another good way to get involved is if you need a good employee, somebody that will get there on time, we make sure they get there on time. They're highly motivated. If they don't work, they have to go back to prison. And so if you want a good, motivated person who will get there on time and do you a good job, and they're supervised not only by their supervisor but by us as well. We supervise them on their jobs and make sure that they're urine tested, they're drug tested, they're clean. And if anybody needs a good employee, we're there for you. We can do that.
Well, Terry, thank you so much.
Well, thank you.
Your story
I talked your arms off.
That's what we're here for. Who cares about my story? And this is a ministry to me as well. I mean, it's a selfish thing to do to put this podcast together because as a leader, I oftentimes tell my staff it's at least once a week that the thought of quit, just give up. It comes into our brains. And so, just this encourages me. Just know that. So just
I'm looking around at you and looking around at what y'all are building here, and it is just absolutely phenomenal, and it's so encouraging. I hear people say, if you're a leader and nobody's following you, you're just taking a walk. But you've got a huge responsibility here, and y'all are just killing it.
Well, thank you.
And I appreciate it because, like I said, it is going to make my job a lot easier.
And just from the very beginning, I know Kristen's reached out for you for advice from different things. I've reached out to Winkler and, hey, what do you think about this? And after I get the latest trivia news, then I get
I know, right?
But and even y'all have served us and blessed us with your men coming over and moving stuff around or doing those. So thank you so much. For what
anything you need, please holler at us. Just give us a call. We're here for you. Thank you so much.
Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Every Arkansan podcast. Our friend Terry is making a difference to our fellow citizens who are re-entering society from a time in prison. They are chasing after their God-given dreams, and she's really a catalyst in helping them do it. Hope you are encouraged. I hope you get involved in chasing after your God-given dream.